talk. Don't worry. And then, thank you so much for being here. Can you give us a bit about an introduction about your background, where you're from? Yeah, what school do you represent? Everything.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on, Ivan. It is always a pleasure chatting with you, my friend. So I am Brennan Hall. I am the Esports Coordinator at Endicott College in Beverly, Massachusetts, just a little bit north of Boston, right on the ocean. We are an oceanside campus. I always like saying that. So my background. So, I'm in my second year here at Endicott. We had a really strong finish to the spring competitive season. We finished fifth in the ECAC in Fortnite out of 100 plus schools. And tonight we are competing for the Rocket League ECAC championship against Purdue. We're hoping to pull it off. It will be a huge win. Our Overwatch team finished top 100 last fall in Overwatch Collegiate, and this spring we qualified for our first ever LAN in program history. We're still a young program competitively. We've only been competing for a little over a calendar year. But we've had esports management curriculum here since 2018. We're one of a handful of schools offering esports management as both a minor and major in the state of Massachusetts. Sorry, my background. I spent a long time in storytelling. Honestly, I had my started out on the media side of things. I worked for a long time at ESPN. It also coincided with my experience at the New England Patriots, the NFL team. And then from there, I made a pivot over into marketing. I had built a brand from the ground up for ESPN, ESPN Boston's high schools section. And, I kind of got the itch of like, if I ever get a chance to do into marketing, because a lot of what I was doing was essentially that, I was going to take a shot, whether it was sports or something else or plumbing. I just love the art and science of it. I had an opportunity to hitch a ride along with a few Patriots colleagues to a company called The Huddle, HUDL. I know they do all the English Premier League soccer teams now, and a number of other big time programs in La Liga, Bundesliga, etc. It's a video analysis software platform. Started out really focusing on football, American football, and branching out from there. From there, I reconnected with an old mentor of mine from the Patriots who had been who had seen collegiate esports success in the past and convinced me to help come over to Oxygen Esports for a year for this opportunity opened up here at Endicott 2 summers ago. I don't know if they were any rush to hire somebody. They were looking for the right person, and I think we were aligned on vision from the get-go, and it's been a wonderful experience here. So,
amazing introduction. Also, funny enough, like Huddle, I had one of my students last semester work for Huddle while he was doing his master's in EU Business School in the Barcelona campus.
Yeah. So one of my old co-workers there, she's now one of the senior product managers. She's from Barcelona, Irene Villalonga. Yeah. So Irene and I hung out a lot during orientation in Lincoln, Nebraska in 2019. So you folks in Europe are funny. You all think that I talk like Joe Pesci or Bill Burr or something like that. So I love my European friends. So
yeah. And another thing you mentioned about storytelling. Now, more and more brands are more conscious than they were like years ago. Okay. You see brands now, not only like the brands themselves doing the storytelling, but like the humans behind the brand, each of them like telling their story and creating their micro, communities. And nowadays it's no secret that people like relate to humans, not to corporate brand names anymore. So like, how do you teach students, or how are you doing it in your program, like the storytelling?
There's there's 100 different ways to tell a story, right? A lot of them, I think the best ones, you have like the up and down tension, right? There's that hero's journey. I think relatability is a big part of it. I think there's a lot of different ways to go about it, but the way what I teach here with my esports marketing class. So I think traditionally in marketing, you learn about what is called the 5 Ps, right? You know, it's product placement. I don't even know them all, but I tell my students, like, hey, we're going to throw them out because I just don't think that traditional model respects the way that brands win the market now, especially in esports, where I think that they've actually been super ahead of the curve on influencer marketing, you know, affiliate marketing, stuff of that sort. Because I think you would agree, Ivan, like for a traditional esports org, like having creators is super important, right? Guys that aren't even competitive, but like our creators and doing content for you guys. That's unique. Like the New England Patriots success isn't, as a long-term brand, isn't pertinent on what influences they align with, right? They still got to win games on a football field and sell tickets, right? But so that's a little bit different, I think, for traditional sports people to understand in esports. But so I teach a different 5 Ps, and I take this from an entrepreneur I really look up to, Daniel Priestley, who has he wrote his book 10 years ago. I use in my class called Key Personal Influence, and he lists out a different 5 Ps. Yeah, so you know what I'm going now. Yeah. All right.
That's why I created LinkedIn. I don't want to be an influencer. I want to be a key person of influence in collegiate esports.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
For international students.
I'll send you the book after. It's really good.
I read it 3 times.
Yeah. Okay. Hell yeah. I know I loved you, man. So you know where I'm going with this, right? So so the first one, right? Pitch, then publish, then your product profile, and then partners, right? You can't get to those other 4 Ps without first establishing what is your pitch, right? And then a mistake a lot of people make, right, is they want to go right to that 5th one, partners, before they've actually established what they are themselves, right? So, kind of the question I have posed my students, you know, as far as the publish aspect, which obviously for esports is not like writing ebooks, but it's like, you know, the content you do, your Twitch, your social media. Maybe you can help me out with this one. If you believe this, you know, Google put out research years ago about the 7-11-4 concept. You know, the average consumer needs 7 hours worth of content, 11 engagements with you at 4 different platforms before they start converting on you, right? In theory, you could hit that in one fell swoop, right? On a Twitch stream, you could do a 7-hour stream, but that's not really the spirit of what they're talking about. So, like, how does that adjust to the gaming world? I don't know. I'll throw it. I know it's supposed to be interviewing me, but I want to throw it back on you. See what you think.
So we use content, specifically like the interview we are doing. Okay, like content with our students. Because we use it for the pre-sales process. Okay. And the sales process when we are going from first meeting to second meeting to signing the contract with the student. And that's how, you know, like it creates authority. It creates like multiple touch points. Okay. Because usually our process lasts from we contact them or they go through partners or through affiliates. Okay. And then to go to sign the contract, it's like a month, you know, and we have multiple touch points that our recruiters do with the students. So like, and we use a lot of content, okay, in reels. Like I heard about this university, maybe I have an interview, I can share a reel, or this student is from Germany. We have a student from Germany from your video game. Boom, you know, like that's 100%. How we use content. And also it really helps when students like research us, when they see a lot of interviews. So because they consume like you said, like many hours, or let's be realistic, a few minutes of a lot of interviews. So they actually come to the meeting with a lot of questions. 3 years ago, okay, they came to the meeting, be like, who are you? What is this?
Exactly.
You know? Now with content, it's like, okay, I'm ready. I have the questions ready. I know who you are, what you do.
Yeah. No, so, I mean, you get it, man. I mean, frankly, the whole reason I'm here is because I've been following your LinkedIn content for years, and I'm just like, dude, this guy's just dropping truth everywhere, you know? But like that stuff really does add up, right? What, like when you talk about profile, like what do you want people to see when they're Googling you, right? What do you, you know, we talk about brand really at the end of the day, it there's a lot of things. It's a sum of a lot of different emotions, but really what it boils down to is what are they saying about you, Ivan, when you're out of the room, right?
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, that's exactly. And so, because you had a question here about, I think in our pre-notes about, advice for players looking to grow their reach while staying true to who they are. I would say, like, okay, with my podcast, so we do a weekly podcast during the semester, Gullcast, right? Where Endicott is the Gulls, just seem natural, right? I've had people I had Eugenia from Gen G on. When Team Secret boot camped here in February, we had them on. I am one of these days, Tim and I from Oakley, we used to work together. We're going to get together, but like, I've been getting some big names on, right? I had Lindsay Postle from DreamHack a few weeks ago. I had Casey Evans from Evil Geniuses. I don't really pay attention to the listenership there, right? Honestly, like, because it's not, I'll be honest with you, it's not that big. But I mean, when people look up Endicott Esports and they see we're on Spotify, we're getting big names talking about the business of esports, that's going to add a lot to what we're doing, right? Hey, these guys are thinking honestly about the direction of the game. They're not just looking to just win a bunch of tournaments. They're actually looking to set kids up, with connections in the industry, try to be a thought leader in the space, so that would be like, so for me, how I judge success for my podcast is not by impressions and numbers, because you can drive yourself nuts with that stuff. I'm sure there's been nights where you are like, oh, how did this post do versus that post? But like, are you happy with what you did? Because from afar, I'm happy with what you do because it's awesome. So that's kind of what I judge by, like, the quality of your own content, which you're going to know, and then like what other people externally are willing to collaborate with you, or willing to legitimize what you're doing, right? And that's not really something you can easily quantify in metrics.
Yes, for sure. Like, even like in one of my classes in sports marketing, I teach the guys, okay, that want to start creating a personal brand, like a podcast strategy, not like starting your podcast, but like, how can you get to specific podcasts and how you can get to your first podcast. And like, you can even ask, like the podcaster, if they're going to write an article about the podcast, if they can give you reels, about the podcast, what you said, when people search you, what appears, okay, an article can appear about you with specific SEO, keywords, for SEO, then, like reels that you can use for your own page. So like a podcast can like leverage a lot of things, and can also build that authority. So that's right. What do people search, and what do people find when they search about your name?
This might sound a little bit red meat for your audience, but like, okay, most popular podcast in the world, probably Joe Rogan, right? And one of the advertisers on his podcast is this whiskey brand, Buffalo Trace. I've never had, because I live next to a liquor store in Framingham, Massachusetts, and that stuff is never on the shelf. It's all, and then there's a sign that says, please limit Buffalo Trace to one per customer. If you Google Joe Rogan whiskey, not knowing what the name of the brand is, you get like 120,000 results for this, like Buffalo Trace thing. Like, is that not the win right there? How do you quantify that based on vanity metrics, right? So how do you quantify that based on impressions and playthroughs? And so I think you said at the beginning, like, brands are getting smarter about, how they're doing their marketing spend. They want to see more ROI. That's kind of a delicate dance you have to do, but that definitely has done its job, right?
No. And Brendan, how do you do you have students that are creating content about your program, or do you want to have, like, what is your take on students creating content about your program?
One of the things I really try to push here is like the day in the life content. Like, when, you should see this place when we're competing in Fortnite. It's, hope my superiors don't swing me for this, but it feels like a party in here when I'm watching the stream. Like there's other students in here hanging out, like not even playing. They get their own cheering sections behind everybody. The lights turn blue here. They can change any color. They tend to go with blue, I think, for the vibes. But when we get a victory royale, there was one night the whole basketball team showed up here, and we got a victory royale, and they were jumping on the stream. It was awesome. So all the things we can do to capture that stuff, like the content that goes most viral for us is not even like I'd say our most, like, for instance, our most viral piece of content this semester was our women's team. They literally chased this one trio halfway across the map, and it was like they were just the narration of it. He won't die. He won't die. They keep going. He won't die. He won't die. It was a 2.5 minute long chase, and then when she finally got the kill, it was a double kill. They freaked out. It was like, it's stuff like that. Like okay, so it's like they won the match, but it was like just so entertaining watching them just fruitlessly try to hunt this guy down, and then they finally get it. And that thing actually ended up getting more shares than likes, which, right, share rate, I think, is, I don't know, you're pretty adept at the linking stuff. To me, share rate is like my North Star for content. So
LinkedIn, nobody understands what LinkedIn wants, or I don't understand. I just post what I want to say, and not for, because like, you see some posts, and I've done some posts that are very like all over the clouds that don't add value, and receive a lot of likes. And I really want to post about something that I really think, like, people will read it and value, and it gets like 5 likes. I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah.
But it still felt therapeutic.
I just do whatever
right?
I want, Before I was like testing, A/B testing. Now I just write about, things that I'm interested, and whoever wants to read it, reads it. If no,
yeah, I think you raise a good point. Because LinkedIn is constantly screwing around with the algorithm, trying to see what works. Like right now, short form video is the hot thing, but are people going to LinkedIn for short form, right? But like, someone like you has built up a lot of equity that, like, people are just going to go out of their way, I feel like, and natively just try to see what you've been posting, right? Which is powerful. The wagon I really hitched on when I jumped into marketing was CRM, and specifically email newsletters. I still think I would call that one of the elements of the secret sauce
for students. It doesn't really work for our students.
Yeah, not for
because we're not that great at doing it. But it didn't really work for us.
I agree with you on that. But I think for people in our crowd, it's very, very valuable. Yeah. So, but I think and everybody has their own opinions about, like, what tricks can you pull in the headline to get them going. And I still think it comes down to what your brand is. That's what wins the open rate, right? Malcolm Gladwell, right? I don't know when the heck he publishes or what, and it could be something completely innocuous. But if I see in my inbox Malcolm Gladwell, I open it instantly because he's going to have something interesting to say. And that, to me, is there's no headline trick you can pull that gets that kind of equity. To your point, yeah. But I'm just like showing an example of, like, your brand, your reputation ultimately is the winner more than any sort of hacks with how the copy looks, emojis, whatever, video. But I think for young professionals breaking this industry, I think it can be intimidating to put out a great LinkedIn post and then like 5 people like it. You know what I mean? But are you happy with, are you staying true to yourself and understand that it might not come overnight, but as long as you commit to being 1% better every time out and you stay to a committed schedule. People have told me this. My friend TJ Horgan at EA Sports, who hosts the Tuesday Madden streams on Twitch. Like, if you commit to something consistency for a year, there's going to come a breaking point. It really commitment is tough. Consistency, as he said, is the WD-40 of so. I'm probably butchering that. Sorry, TJ, but no, I really think I like to use this analogy of ice, right? You don't notice the change in ice. I'm going to actually talk in the imperial system here for a second for Fahrenheit. But when it goes from 16 to 17 degrees Fahrenheit, you don't notice a change. 17 to 18, no. 18, 19, no. But when it goes from 31 to 32, right, what happens? It melts. So as long as you commit to getting 1 degree better every day, eventually there comes a breaking point, right? So that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I'm going off on a TED talk. I apologize.
No. But it's super true. And what I did on LinkedIn, I tried on X, and I don't know how. I cannot crack X. I cannot crack how to engage. Like, I comment on things, but when I post, maybe like I don't want to copy paste, of course, LinkedIn from X, but like I try to somehow get into
Yeah,
X. I just can't.
so
I just stick to LinkedIn.
100%. So I mean, for our students, really Instagram and TikTok is where they are. Twitter, I don't. Here's my thing with Twitter. So when I started the ESPN way back in the day, I think I had 400 followers my first year, and then in about 8 months, I grew to 15,000. And again, people have all these little. They think you can hack your way to growth. The reality is, I just tweeted like heck, honestly, and because I was in media, and I just prided myself on. And believe it or not, this was a time when media traditional media was still in kind of its infancy with getting its grip on social media. I was just going to be outworking everybody with providing updates from the games I'm at, making sure I'm responding to everybody, in a positive manner, but trying to be fun with them, and try to capture, like here's another thing. So, for those unfamiliar with the landscape of Massachusetts high school football, we are not Texas, right? I think Kyler Murray, the quarterback for Arizona Cardinals, I think he had 28 high school teammates a senior year who signed Division I scholarships. That's insane. We're lucky to get a dozen in the state of Massachusetts. But what we have that Texas don't have is, so I live in Framingham, right? We hate Natick, home of Doug Flutie, which hates Walpole, which hates Foxborough, which hates Mansfield, which hates Franklin, and on and on and on. And so people around here are very tribal, very proud of that little place in the world. And we went the other direction and really tried to put the spotlight on the community aspect of these things and what the fans were doing at these games. And, one of my favorite questions I would ask athletes is, what makes you proud to put on that jersey? Right. And it usually led to a lot of good sound bites about, this is from my town. This is for all those games for when I was 10 years old. Right. And there's a lot of really good emotion pouring out. So tried to capture that, what makes them proud to play. And so that really, really shown out with my Twitter presence. But Twitter today, I don't know. That's a tough one for me to figure out. Can I hit the third rail here, Ivan? I think
live talk, whatever you want to say. I don't work for any. I work for institutions, but not that I have, not in an that have collegiate programs. So
I just think
I represent this portion. So whatever.
I just think certain people got their finger on the scale, if you know what I mean, and that it's hard for me to grip with about what I actually want to see on Twitter. And then when I just see people arguing and stuff, and it's like, man, I'm not learning what I used to learn 5 years ago on this app, and I find a lot more. I just find a better experience, and for our students that are on Instagram and TikTok, so that's where we need to be. So, and I find it, TikTok is great in that, I think their challenge, and that came out really, really well during COVID, was that you can actually learn a lot in a 15-second video. Today's consumers, they're consuming in microbytes, and you can actually learn a lot from a 15-second video, and it's proven to be really effective. And I think to a lesser extent, Instagram Reels as well. So.
Yeah. What you said about X is true. It's like, well, some people argue, but some people still, I follow a few of them. Then I don't know why there's like you go to the homepage and you have a bunch of like political posts. I'm like, I don't follow these guys. Why do they put?
Yeah.
So I'm like,
it's kind of a weird place because, like, all right, well, it's also I think for virality, it's easier than ever to go viral because of the you feed. And these algorithms are trying to give you content based on what you're viewing. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time, it's like, man, I didn't want some of this stuff. But I think Instagram and TikTok's giving you a better experience in that regard. It feels like, I don't know. X is an important place for my growth way back in the day, but I don't know what the future is for that. So.
Okay. Now that we're in the trenches and you started it, what do you think about?
How do I climb out? You got a ladder, bud?
No. We're in the trenches.
Oh boy.
What do you think about Play VS, Playfly, and Generation Esports? You think the Unity is going to be great for the ecosystem? What's your take on that?
I don't have any experience with them, to be honest with you. Playfly, we almost did Playfly this semester for Fortnite, but we opted to stick with ECAC, so I don't have a great opinion on it. I know in the past, Playversus, it's been there was some positives and negatives. I don't know what the future holds. If you ask me if consolidation is a good thing, I think this space is fragmented, and any sort of unity on that front is certainly beneficial. I can't really speak from experience though, unfortunately on that. Playfly does offer Fortnite, which I like. So we'll see what happens. But we've been happy with our membership in NACE and ECAC, and also shout out my guy Jacob Van Ryn at NECC.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to stop there. No, but you're the first person that I asked because I saw like a bunch of posts, about it, and I'm like, okay. Yeah,
wish I had a great opinion for you. Unfortunately, I don't.
Okay. It's all good then.
Yeah.
What do you, because like now, you mentioned something about like, I can't remember specifically, but like I wrote it down about esports teams becoming more like monetizing more from like the market, like the content creation side and their storytelling more than anything else. Do you see the same pattern like in collegiate? Yes, for some programs, recruitment is still, pushing dollars to the university, but do you see sustaining in the medium long run collegiate esports programs thanks to content creation and leveraging YouTube and all the other social medias and being, like heavily focused on marketing? What's your stance on that?
I think, so because it's a good question about students leveraging their personal brands, right? And I think I'll just tell a quick story from my time at Huddle, just for context. We had a great video intern by the name of Kyle Lewis. I don't know if he's watching, maybe not, but by day he was a video intern for us. By night he was a Call of Duty content creator, and he was a pretty good sniper, running around with semi-pro orgs. But he did a lot of great content at events around Omaha, and he currently works for NC State, not even in esports or sports, but just in the more traditional academic side. But like one of the things that made him stand out was how he had built up his own creator brand, doing Call of Duty content. So I've seen this stuff translate well. I think what it says externally is like, wow, look what this person did with their own brand. What can they do for us? There's definitely some equity there and so I think, getting students here to understand, how to sell themselves, right? It's a competitive job market. And so I think there's a lot of fundamental value to learning how to make yourself a key person of influence, right? Right.
What I also wanted to add is like for people, I love reading more than audio podcasts, but if you are a student that cannot keep, like a lot of focus on reading, there's an interview in the Diary of CEO, of the author talking to Stephen Bartlett, and that interview is like hours, but like it was a Saturday morning with a coffee. I just went into it. Yeah.
What was that? Have you ever read the Malcolm Gladwell book, David and Goliath? Have you read that one where he talks about 1/3 of Fortune 500 CEOs are like some form of dyslexic? Like there is some there is some unintended. I mean, he calls it turning the disadvantage into an advantage, but like there's something interesting about that, like how it forced them to think differently, and that ended up, paying off for them. But to your point, so I have to be here on campus every day. It's a beautiful, beautiful campus. It's an Oceanside campus, as I mentioned. But if you know anything about Boston traffic, it is somewhere between the third and fifth circles of hell. It's terrible. So I have a long commute here. So podcasts are how I get by, and audiobooks. I probably go through about an audiobook a week. I don't know if you do this, but like when I'm listening to an audiobook, I'll actually go buy the book. and then run through it with a highlighter, all the important points I heard on the audiobook? Yeah.
Mhm.
So
I do it, but I read it. I don't know why. I read it once, okay, and when I read it, I bend the pages, I highlight them, okay, and then
yeah.
I read them again, okay, and I use it for research,
My,
and I write my own stuff. Yeah,
my wife does something
that's
similar.
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
she's a professor too. So, but yeah, no, I feel like I've always said this: you follow the right people on LinkedIn, it's the best free master's degree you can get. Honestly, there's so many amazing people like yourself, just putting out awesome thought leadership about the industry. This industry in general, look, I've worked in the NFL, I've worked in media, I've worked in tech. This is by far the most collaborative industry, the most open sourced, open sharing industry I've ever been a part of. The amount of people I've been able to connect with students here just by cold messaging them on LinkedIn or any other social media and just a response there, it's phenomenal. So I really encourage your listeners to lean in. You would be surprised just how far you can get, what you can get just by asking. It really is surprising.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's for sure. Whew. Okay, Brendan. Before we wrap this up, usually we keep it half an hour because like students don't watch more. Like
Oh
we've
God.
asked them.
Oh
So,
God.
is there anything that we didn't mention that you would like to mention?
Boy, how much time you got, buddy? What we got here?
Just start with a topic, and then we
Yeah,
can.
listen, we're trying to do things a little bit differently here at Endicott.
Okay.
You know, we got a lot of good things going here. How about this? Can I give a quick tour of the
Of
esports lab?
course.
So this is
Here's
our
this is
production studio.
freestyle.
This is freestyle. So this is our lab. We get 15 Lenovo Legion 4080 PCs. We're right in the heart of the student union. It's the most heavily trafficked place on campus. We have a very active community here, especially with the Fortnite, Roblox, all that good stuff. If you want to learn more about what we're doing, just hit me up. I'm always happy to chat, and I'm always happy to rap with people like you, man. This is awesome. I really appreciate what you do and what you do for the collegiate esports community. I hope you don't feel like it's underappreciated because for people like me, what you do is super important.
Same, Brendan. And I can't wait to go into your podcast. Okay, as well.
Name a time and place, brother. We'll make it happen.
Amazing. Also, one last thing that just popped into my mind. What would be like an actions plan or some steps of how can students get into like storytelling their journey in college? Because like that can build the terms of a community. I think college being in a safe space with surrounded by professionals, that can
I'm gonna give you.
Yeah.
You get me in the book brain. I'm gonna give you 2 books for anyone looking to be a better storyteller. One, Stephen King on writing. That is probably the best book you can ever read for learning how to tell the story. On it, Stephen King. So I don't know if you remember this, but about 25 years ago, he almost died. He got hit by a car really, really bad up in the woods of Maine, and he didn't know if he was going to live. So he wrote this whole book about the craft of writing and how he does it. And the lessons from that book, written in 2000, hold up really well in 2025. The other one I'm going to recommend is Writing for Story. It's by this Pulitzer Prize winning nonfiction writer, John Franklin. There's a lot of really good stuff in there, but I think the biggest takeaway is to be able to really skim down your outline to no more than 15 words. With a conflict, 3 actions, and a resolution. If you can't boil it down to its nub, to its absolute essence, if you can't think it all the way through, you're never going to be able to tell the story to its full extent. But there's a lot of things in there, but like that's the biggest takeaway for me is that actionable outline. And so that was a book sent to me years ago by the great and powerful Wright Thompson of ESPN. Anyone who's ever read him? But like, I'd say start there, right? Because I think the most difficult part as a storyteller is editing yourself, really being objective about what are the details that are going to actually move the story forward. And what's going to slow it down, because pace matters, tension matters. And it's about extracting the right details that illuminate your narrative.
Amazing. Brendan, thank you so much.
I try, buddy. I try.
Amazing. And those 2 books, I'm gonna get them right
I'll
now.
Send you, man. Send me your address. I'll mail you my copy, dude.
Amazing, man. Amazing. Brendan,